Hola a todos, welcome back to Metafit Metamind Podcast, a podcast in which speakers, leaders, entrepreneurs, and influencers come in and share their journey on how they've gotten to this place in their life, while also normalizing those conversations between mental and physical health and wellness. I am Carla Rodriguez, your coach and trainer of NLP and host of this podcast, and I created this space to remind you to raise your voice and share your story. And as your guide, I'm here to create a pathway to let go of those limiting chains and use this platform to empower and create awareness, purpose, and expansion in your life. You can follow us on Instagram at Metafit Metamind Podcast, or you can follow me at Coach Carlita. Please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. This week, or in the last 2 weeks, there has been so much movement going on. It's more on the back end, though. We hosted a work circle in collaboration with Women Who Work, and that was so amazing and powerful with these women. And last week was also the Platform and Profit Summit, in which I was part of day one. And so if you didn't catch this talk, in which I'm talking about how you can sell without being salesy, you can watch the recordings. I will leave the link in the show notes. So here in the coming weeks, you will also see some changes as far as how I show up on social media and everything. So good things are happening. It's just like there's that back end stuff that we sometimes have to work as business owners. And the last thing I want to say is that the Hypnosis Certification Training is happening still, November 5th through the 8th. So if this is something that you're looking into or has been calling your name, when it's time to, now it's time to answer that. And so why did I mention Hypno first? Well, that's because due to some changes, like I said, on the back end, the NLP training in June is probably moving to July. So I will keep you updated on those changes. Remember to share the podcast with people you think would like it, rate it, subscribe to it so you don't miss the updated episodes. Remember, I'm on Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite platform, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. So in this episode of Metafit Metamind, I spoke with Laura Bennett, an amazing woman and human being. In my mind, super wise and someone who I was meant to connect with to listen to her insights. Laura is a high performance and mindset coach, certified in Legacy Leadership 2.0, advanced coaching by Elite High Performance. She has spent years in federal sales, business development, and marketing. She's also a 5-time winner of the Forum 100 Award and was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2021. Laura, with her years of experience in corporate America and coaching, helps early to mid-career professionals break their own glass ceilings and ascend that corporate ladder. So I hope you enjoy her journey and anything and any insights that you get from her. So enjoy the episode. Hi everyone, my name is Carla Rodriguez, and I'm so excited to be on again here on Metafit Metamind Podcast with another amazing and full of knowledge guest here. I have Laura Bennett, who is a high performance and mindset coach, and I'm excited. Thank you so much for being here, Laura.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm glad to join your podcast.
Yeah, and so I know we connected a while back, and so many things we were just discussing how all these challenges with technology and cars and things, and how we didn't know a lot, back in the day, like how did we get here? And so before we even get to that, I want to know a little bit about you. So who is Laura?
Yeah. And I think that's a great question, because when I think of that answer, it really just you pause and reflect.
Yes.
And the way I answer that question is, I am a human being. I am no longer a human doing. And when I first entered into coaching, we often think of ourselves as these productivity machines, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to kind of like unwind that doingness and just learn how we are who we are, and think about what it is that makes us human. What is it that makes me Laura Bennett, and like the things that characterize me. I mean, we go to networking events and we'll the first question they ask you is, well, what do you do? And you say, well, I'm a sales consultant, or I'm this, or I'm that. And we do that for so many hours of the day. We just get really hyped in that. And for the longest time, that was my answer. But when I answer that question now, it's, I am a mother. I am a multifaceted human being with a wide range of emotions. I'm a cycle breaker. I am a salesperson, right? So I still have that as part of my identity, but it's just one aspect. I'm a photographer. I love to take pictures.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it is so much fun. I'm a
Yeah.
hiker and I love to get out in nature and take pictures. I'm also a writer, and all of these kind of things just make up who I am and what do I like to do and be. And I have a curious mind, and it just all of these things culminate and make me who I am. And I think I would probably start with that is I'm a human being. I'm no longer a human doing.
I love that. And I think that's so important when I've done presentations is like remember that we are having a conversation with a human being. And I think sometimes when, like you said, when we get into this space of whatever career choice we do have when going to networking events, sometimes I feel like people don't see each other as people, as human beings. So I love that you say that because in that human being is all these identities. Like I feel like it's kind of like a bucket going in, and this is my skill, and this is a little bit of identity, and this is another identity. And it's definitely something that I've been learning, especially because I've had this 8-month-old now, and well, next week. And he gave me a new identity because I was a bonus mom already, but this new identity of like motherhood and from the beginning. And so it's very interesting how that kind of plays out. And sometimes we forget we're just human, and we're just human in a big way. So I love that you said that.
Yeah, and I certainly agree with you on that. Is we get so wrapped up in these various identities, and
Mm-hmm.
we're having a huge cultural shift now with identity again,
Mm-hmm.
and we kind of get lost in that, right? And
Yeah.
we're really using it to redefine our experience again. And this happens every so few generations, like when I think about my dad and the generation he came from and what made him who he was, and how that defined his identity. It was so different for
Mm-hmm.
him then. And look at us now, and we have technology, and that's going to redefine our experience again. It is right now. And now we have AI, and they say that's going to be the next big boom, kind of like the
Mm-hmm.
Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
I think it can and will be, as long as we're like more sustainable in how
Yeah.
we live on this planet.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's these things that kind of come along, and we forget in the process, well, I'm still a human being. What does it mean to
Mm-hmm.
be who I am, and how do I define that? I think that story changes over
Mm-hmm.
time. And we could even add, I'm an evolving human being.
Yep. Yep. That's the huge part of that. And through this evolving Laura, the question that I like to ask is, what's your story or that journey or even that chapter turn that has brought you to this point where we're at today?
Yeah. And that's a very important question. I'm actually about to turn a huge chapter. I think a huge chapter is about to close. And I started reflecting on this a few weeks ago. My father has been passed away for a very long time now. It's 24 years now. And
Wow.
so next year will be the 25th year. And that's going to be like an anniversary onto its own.
Yeah.
And I've been getting more in touch with this experience every year around the anniversary of his death,
Mm-hmm.
which also coincides closely with my birthday. So it's a unique experience to experience every year. And we become really disconnected. And so I've been reconnecting. And when we reconnect with emotions first, right? So anything that we haven't dealt with comes up first, and we have to deal with it, right? Or it's just going to stay there. And so we have to deal with it and work through that. And I went into I did like a live on my Instagram a few weeks ago, and I feel like we often characterize this experience as grieving, and I think that's an inadequate word really to describe it. I think English has a lot of pitfalls. And so I kind of came upon this Welsh word called hiraeth, and it's more of like a longing, a sense of belonging, missing home. And I
Interesting.
think that better, I know, right?
Yeah.
It better characterizes my experience now because I'm 24 years in. I don't think of myself as still grieving. I think of it as an aspect
Yeah.
of the journey, but I'm not like grieving.
Yeah.
I think for me at least, I see that, and my perception is my perception. Everybody's going to be different, but for
Yeah.
me, grieving happens earlier in the process. And now for me, it's just an aspect of who I am, and it's just part of the journey. And so I will grieve at times, but it's more of a finite aspect to the experience. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's had a huge impact on me. I think, death, there's all kinds of death
Mm-hmm.
and family members, friends, but I think the death of a parent has a more of a major impact on a person,
Yeah.
because it just defines who you are. Your
Mhm.
parent created you,
Yes.
helped create you. And so I think just that fact alone really changes the game in
Mm-hmm.
when you go through that experience.
Yeah, and going through that experience, I know one of the things that you've, I think we touched on it when we first met, but it's around like this process of losing someone that you love, right? And going through the
Mhm.
grieving process, but now no longer being that is like that experience for you with like the emotional awareness and gaining that, through the years and, you know, the evolution of your identity as well and gaining the intelligence with your emotions as well. Like how has that process, I guess, happened for you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it happened really close to my
Yeah.
birthday. I mean, and I was 20 years old at the
Oh,
time,
wow.
right?
Yeah.
So being that young, you have a sense of kind of like immortality. But I saw this Instagram post the other
Uh-huh.
day. Funny that we look at Instagram to get these messages, but the holistic psychologist said on her slide that, sometimes when we grow up with an older parent, the process of grieving starts when you're younger. And that really resonated with me because my father was older
Uh-huh.
than my mother. So already he was hitting his life expectancy. So I'm a
Yeah.
young kid
Yeah.
with grubby little hands, and my dad is wrinkled.
Yeah.
So I had to grow up with that. I really, I think one of the things that older generations had is death was more of a regular fixture
Mm.
in their lives. It was more present,
Yeah.
right? I think we lived closer to the sword, so to speak, just
Wow.
because of way life used to be. Even after the industrial age with
Yeah.
the world wars, and not having as many advances in medicine,
Mm-hmm.
where you have these prescription drugs that can really prolong your life, literally.
Yeah.
So we've gotten further away from the experience, and I had
Mm.
to live very close to the sword at a
Yeah.
young age. And when he did pass away, it was still a shock. I mean, I
Yeah.
was really in shock, and a lot of emotion came up.
Mm-hmm.
And I first started grieving with anger, and then I
Mm.
had to work on the acceptance. And I really
Yeah.
worked on that hardcore that year.
Yeah.
And I was able to get through the acceptance. But I think also growing up with him and that
Mm-hmm.
close to the experience of, the frailty of life,
Yeah.
I was able to accept it. And I think
Yeah.
acceptance is a very huge part of grieving. And I think we all will have a different relationship to it.
Mm-hmm.
But 24 years in now, I don't feel any more advanced than any other person. I don't feel
Mm.
like there is a lesson to learn. I don't think there's something to accomplish with this kind of experience.
Yeah.
And I think it's more about how do you integrate it than
Mm-hmm.
learning the lesson, achieving
Yeah.
the goal. And we
Yeah.
often live life that way. It's like, I'm going to
Yeah.
learn the lesson and go to the next level. I'm leveling up. I'm going to
Mhm.
do this
Yeah.
mastermind and then achieve the goal. I'm going to set my goals every year. And it's just an experience.
Yeah.
There's really nothing to learn. There's only you only integrate it. So
Yeah.
yeah, you learn things, but I don't think we learn something from this. It's
Yeah.
not supposed to be that kind of experience.
Like a start to finish type of deal, but more of the continuous evolution.
It's a continuum
Yeah.
because often in times we have people that kind of make these platitudes of, well, we're all human,
Mm-hmm.
we're all flesh and blood and bone underneath, but
Mm-hmm.
we need to look at it at a higher level. I
Yeah.
mean, we all are born, we all live, we
Mm-hmm.
all age, and then we
Mm-hmm.
all die. I mean,
Yeah.
nobody's getting out of here alive,
I
to
know, right?
make a pun. So it's really a
Yeah.
continuum.
Yeah.
And you have the beauty of life right
Mm-hmm.
now in your world, and that's an amazing thing. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like, you and I are coming at it from different angles at this point in
Hmm.
time.
Yeah, and I think when you said like living so close to the I think you said edge of the sword, I was like,
Hmm.
oh, I've never thought of it in that way. And it's interesting the acceptance and how you had to accept you not you didn't have to, but you at some point chose to have the acceptance and and be on this continuum and not necessarily that you have to start to finish learn something, but implement it and integrate it. And I think that's part of the emotional intelligence that I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that you've gained over the journey, having that awareness and also the intelligence, which I think is so important. And so through that, how did you get into, what you do, not necessarily as your identity, but what you do now to help others as this high performance coach?
Yeah. So a couple of years ago, I've, my career's always been a huge part of my life, and
Yeah.
serving the mission of the client, being
Mm-hmm.
customer centric, all of that has been a huge part of my identity.
Mm-hmm.
And probably about 4 or 5 years ago, I kind of hit a wall. People used to say it was a middle age crisis. I don't really
Mm-hmm.
think that. I think it's more like you hit, you're like, why am I doing this kind of
Mm-hmm.
crisis?
Yeah.
Or it's, am I aligned with who I am type
Yeah.
of crisis? And it's more about the personal journey. We hit a
Mm-hmm.
point and we hit a speed bump. We're like,
Yeah.
oh, wait a minute. And you have this moment of clarity, you have this
Yeah.
moment of lucidity. And, I knew I really had to do something.
Yeah.
So I was seeing a naturopath, and I asked her about what she was doing with with herself, because she looked like she was happier. And she turned me on to my coach at that time. And I worked with my coach, and we were able to really achieve a lot in a few short months.
Yeah.
And so that really helped me in terms of addressing some of the personal things I had going on.
Yeah.
And, therapy just didn't really ever help me.
Yeah.
It just wasn't really for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm the kind of person where I'm really stubborn. Like, I won't, I am very stubborn. Like,
Yeah.
I will muscle my way through it, even
Yeah.
if it takes a long time. So I didn't do any prescription drugs to
Mm-hmm.
help address anything. It was like, I'm going to
Yeah.
really figure this out.
I
If,
want to like go through this stuff and get out on the other side.
yeah, go through the fire,
Yeah.
go through the fire, literally, like get
Yep.
baptized by the fire. And so, I just worked with her for a year, and it ended up being 2 years. I started joining her coaching cohorts, which were really, really good cohorts. And then eventually she came out with a certification
It's
program. And I
awesome.
knew that this is really something I wanted to do to help people,
Yeah.
because it helped me so much.
Yeah.
And I got certified in her coaching program this
Mm-hmm.
past year. And now I'm off
Yeah.
to the races. I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I do consulting,
Yeah.
and then I'm working on the coaching business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. And that's the exciting part is that's why sometimes when I do ask the question is like, what's that chapter turn? Because I feel like as we're going through life, there's always all these chapters, all of this can go into a book. This podcast can go into a book at some point. There's all these changes. And I feel like sometimes, like, I do workshops and I ask people, what's the purpose of this, right? What's your purpose? And I think as time changes, it changes. And recently I've been learning that since I became a mom, well, uh,
Hmm.
natural mom, I guess I would say. My purpose has changed because before it was about, leaving a legacy and showing my bonus kid, Alex, hey, you can do this. Sometimes we do have to work through it, sometimes this and that, and he sees the examples of his dad and I wanted to like show him that. And then now that I have my kid, my son, it's like, hey, what is the legacy? My purpose right now, right, just is to like make sure that my kid survives. Right? That's right now that part is like
Basic human needs.
being addressing what he needs, being the mom that I need to be. And at the same time, as I grow, I'm like, okay, I can do this entrepreneurship. There's a lot of adjustments that happen. So I think I do like that, it changes as you go. And so there's all these identities that you've had, and then you met your coach, and then you got certified, and now you're helping people, which I think is really exciting, because I know that you said that sales is one of the things that you're like super strong at too. And so I know that you're going to be able to help people to get out of their stuff and, you know, have the transformations that they need as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that you're right. Our, what we are doing and why changes, but sometimes the why can really stick with you.
Yeah.
My why has been the same for a very long
Mm-hmm.
time, and it's about breaking the cycle of
Yeah.
being a cycle breaker in my family.
Laura the cycle
Um,
breaker. Yes.
yeah, I mean, that's my why. And I
Yeah.
think if we can really kind of tap into it, it gives you a lot
Yeah.
of clarity. And when those moments get tough and you're like, oh man, I just don't know if I can do it, you
Mhm.
remember your why,
Yeah.
and it can really help you accelerate what you're doing. Like I
Mm-hmm.
listened to this podcast recently, and this guy was growing up in Pakistan, right?
Uh-huh.
Probably 20, 30, 40 years ago. And
Yeah.
he knew with absolute clarity he had to come to America.
Yeah.
I mean,
The
talk
goal was
about
there.
knowing that goal
Yeah.
was there. And
Yeah.
he knew it even as a kid. And that was just so amazing to listen to that, because you
Mm-hmm.
really want to tap into how did that person get to that point and
Mm-hmm.
at such a young age.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, the for sure the main vision, the I guess the end, but not really the end. The What I see in the end is overall the same, and the
Yep.
chapters, are kind of get adjusted as we go, but yet the vision is like, all right, that's the purpose there. And honestly, I think most
Yes.
people's purpose is to have happiness, to have fulfillment. It's normally what I hear, the time freedom with family again, or with friends, or to travel the world. It's like normally it's essentially very similar. And then the cycle breaker, right? Doing things that it's time to stop the old things and like, yo, we got to do it
Yeah.
this way. Yeah.
Yep.
No, I love that. And through this journey, Laura, because this is something that I love talking about, as you've learned along this, as you have this emotional awareness, intelligence, getting your certification, having your purpose, being the cycle breaker, in your experience, what's been that correlation for you between the mental and the physical health and wellness?
So I started off my journey working on the physical health, right? So I've had issues with sleep for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I started with vitamins, and I did amino acids,
Yeah.
worked with various naturopaths, did change my diet a ton. I
Yeah.
mean, I was almost even like not a fruitarian, but a raw vegan at one point.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Right. I mean, I like really was just really exploring. And then I thought maybe there was a gluten tolerance. I did tons of vitamins, let me tell you.
Yeah.
And then when I got to my late 30s and I was starting to have that kind of that moment, that
Mm-hmm.
crisis, then I realized it was about the mindset. Like that mindset is
Mm-hmm.
so important. That personal
Yeah.
state inside of you is so important. But it's evolved again. And now it's like about nervous system regulation, because a lot of the mindset techniques you work are top down. So
Mm-hmm.
we also need to work bottom up, because we have like our very advanced parts of the brain, and then we
Mm-hmm.
have our very kind of like primal parts of the brain. And
Yep.
the vagus nerve kind of tells us where to go
Mm-hmm.
based on the situation.
Yeah.
And we have the vagus nerve, we receive our emotion and we feel it physically, and then we rationalize it, then we
Yeah.
identify it and think about it.
Yeah.
So now I'm kind of like on this journey about healing the nervous system,
Mm-hmm.
learning how to regulate it, polyvagal theory, all of that.
Yeah, that's so, so, so
Yeah.
important. That's what I love. That's the work that I do, is like, hey, let's work on this. And yeah, that mindset for sure. Because I tell my clients, I remind them, I'm like, what you tell your mind, your body does. And at the same time, if your body does something, what is that telling you as well? And so, yeah, that's so important. And
Yep.
so regulating for sure, your nervous system, and being aware of what everybody talks about too, is a fight, flight, or freeze as well.
Yep.
And how
Yep.
that's like n- uh, that human part of us that
Yes.
sometimes we're not aware of.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so cool. And so through this process, and now that you're, in this new chapter, I guess I would say, or in this chapter that you're on, what's something that you're excited about or that's coming for you, for Laura, for your business? Anything that you want to share with us?
Yeah, I mean, I'm only literally months in, right? But
Yeah.
I've been able to make the switch. And I think, when people think of making the switch, it can be a huge chasm you have to drop. Really, for me, it was
Yeah.
because of our personal situation. So I
Yeah.
had to like prepare things ahead of time.
Yeah.
So I'm very proud of the accomplishment of now being full time in my
Yay.
business for
Yeah.
months now.
Yeah.
I would say, things kind of really hit a new momentum in January. So that's very good. The consulting side is doing
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Now I'm working on, like my coaching trainings,
Mm-hmm.
working on acquiring clients, and they kind
Yeah.
of fluctuate, it
Uh-huh.
changes.
Yep.
But the new chapter is building what my business will be and
Mm-hmm.
increasing that freedom and the flexibility. It's not about getting all this money, but it's about increasing options,
Mm-hmm.
flexibility, and then the choice of freedom, the
Yeah.
freedom of choice. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. And let me ask you this, because I don't know, I don't remember if I gave you this one before, but if somebody wanted to learn something from you, or maybe something that someone else taught you that you'd want to share with someone else, what's that like key piece of advice that you can give somebody that has
Oh,
helped you
that's a
maybe?
good one. There's a lot of advice to give there. I
Yeah.
think I think sometimes we're really hard on ourselves for feeling the emotion that we do.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, your emotion is your emotion. There's no shame or guilt in how you feel,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just learn to understand the emotion, and it has a purpose, right? It does something for you at that point in time. And so I think the other part of advice I would add on to it is you don't want it to rule your life. If you find that you're kind of stuck in this loop, start looking for solutions to help you kind of move through the experience. Because the point of feeling the emotion is to feel it,
Mm-hmm.
and then we digest it, and then we're able to put it away. We're
Yeah.
able to move on in our daily experience, and that also impacts regulating the nervous system. So I would probably start with that.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And you being the cycle breaker, for some reason I thought of Dr. Joe Dispenza, who says, we have the same thoughts, the same beliefs, the same actions. And there's something else that he says. I can't think of it right now. I can't remember what it is. But it's like people
Mm-hmm.
get into this cycle, right? The same cycle. And now you're here like breaking that cycle and helping
Yeah.
people and helping yourself too, like creating new thoughts, creating new actions, creating new beliefs, creating new results. And I think that's the really, really cool thing. And that people are like, what's this crisis? Well, it's a change, it's a new cycle, and that's really exciting. So I'm really, really excited for that, and for having you on as well. And so if people wanted to get consulting, get coaching, see what you're up to, where can people find you?
Yeah, I mean, I'll do probably most of my posting on LinkedIn
Hmm.
and Instagram. So
Cool.
people can find me on LinkedIn. You can type my name into the search bar, Laura Bennett. I'm in Maryland in the United States.
Cool.
I tag myself as a mindset coach.
Okay.
And then on Instagram, I am Laura D. Bennett with two N's and two T's.
Cool. And I'll put that in the show notes, but I like
Yep.
for you to share it so people can hear it.
Thank you.
Because, as we know, people communicate in different ways. So
Yep.
yeah, so thank you so much, Laura, for being on here, for sharing a little piece of your story, your chapters, your knowledge, your wisdom. Because there's a lot in here already that I was like, oh yeah, I didn't think of it that way. Or being so close to this, the news, to me, it's a new saying, like being so close to the sword, right? To the edge as well. And so I so appreciate you. And is there any last thing that you'd want to share?
Well, I really like your podcast. I think it has kind of like a different vibe to me. I feel like these podcasts nowadays are like boom, 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 boom. And they're like, we need to like give you a lesson. And you have like this more relaxed vibe on your podcast.
Oh,
And I
thank you
really
so
enjoy
much.
that.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that so much. And so, with that being said, thank you so much again. I'll put all Laura's contacts, links, and everything in the show notes. And if y'all need to go back and re-listen to something, replay this, go replay it, and go follow her in case I didn't say that. So, thank you so much, Laura.
Thank you.
I learned a few things with Laura, so here we go. It's not just about something you specifically learn in life. We're going through different chapters and changes in life. And the question is, how are you integrating those things into your personal growth? The second thing that I learned was that we are just human, which is very interesting because I spoke about that in the summit. And it's not necessarily that I learned that, but it's a reminder that when we connect authentically, genuinely, we connect as the humans that we are, and that yes, we go through many things in life, and certificates and diplomas and births and rebirths and ultimately all the things human. So that's it. Just remember that you are human. Whatever you are going through, you're human. All right, as I mentioned in the beginning of the episode, the NLP certification is probably moving to July. Keep your eyes open for that. And the Hypnosis certification is November 5th through the 8th. It's a 3-day certification in which you'll be able to work as a practitioner of hypnosis. And it's a 3-month container in which you get one-on-one support from me and in group, and you get lifetime access to your portal, all the things. All right, so the link will be in my show notes for all the things. And if you haven't done so already, please share, rate, and subscribe to the podcast. It's gonna help me so much pop up on these platforms. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Metafit Metamind Podcast, on the other side at Coach Carlita, and just continue to keep your eyes open. I'm so excited to keep doing this and just podcasting for 5 years. It's such a gift. Yeah, so thank you so much for following me up to this point. I am really excited that it's been 5 years podcasting, and I'm celebrating that, and I wanted to mention that here because I haven't celebrated before. I mentioned it all of April, and it's just such a gift to meet so many amazing people. So I appreciate you so much. My name is Carla Rodriguez. This is Metafit Metamind Podcast, where we're normalizing the conversations that we would have never had. Until next time.